the Wizards traveled to Atlanta for the conference semifinals, undefeated in the playoffs. The Wizards came out of Game 1 with a win, but injuries to their young core overshadowed the victory. Game 2 had to go on without John Wall, who was sidelined with the wrist injury he suffered in Game 1. Ramon Sessions and the Wizards kept the game within reach, but ultimately the Hawks handed the Wizards their first postseason loss. And now, Game 3. The Wizards are back home and looking to get ahead in the series once again, but with one star fallen, they all have to rise. American Express Home Court Advantage starts now. Hello, Wizards fans, and welcome to the Monumental Network studios. Jamoke Davis, Haley Milan, and the legend Phil Chenier here joining us for what we call American Express Home Court Advantage. Game 3 between the Washington Wizards and the Atlanta Hawks in the semifinal matchup today. The game starts at 5 o'clock, but we want to get you set right here as we get ready for the matchup. I think we got some breaking news,
yes,
Haley.
We do.
Let us know what it is.
Yeah, the Wizards announced just a little while ago that John Wall would be inactive tonight. So with that in mind, we're asking you guys on Twitter, what are the keys to a Wizards win tonight? In hashtag WizHawks, make sure you use hashtag AmexWizards. And we're going to discuss some tweets towards the end of the show. And if you're here at Verizon Center joining us, make sure you get up behind our set outside of section 422, 423. We know Phil wants to say what's up to you. Make some noise. We want to see you guys. All right, so guys, one key for a win in this game is certain. They'll need to move the ball and do it all without John Wall. I didn't mean to rhyme there. I really didn't. But the Wizards announced on Thursday that Wall suffered 5 non-displaced fractures in his left wrist during Game 1. They stressed again on Thursday and Friday that his playing status remained uncertain, but now we know he won't be playing in Game 3.
Just feel the same. My swelling's going down a little, but just taking it day by day. I mean, just being patient with it, trying to do the best I can, is getting treatment, and just taking it day by day.
Do you think there's a chance that you can actually play again in this series, or even on Saturday?
I have no idea. You know what I mean? Depends on how my swelling and all the pain goes away. That's all I can dictate off of. You know what I mean? I finished Game 1 with it, but not knowing that I had anything wrong. And then I came back and got evaluation, so I have no idea.
John, is there anything you can do better with the hand now that maybe you couldn't do 3 days ago?
It's moving better, but I mean, it's still pain there. I haven't tried dribbling again, so I'll probably try it tomorrow and not whenever. But just the same pain has been there, even though the swelling is going down a little bit.
John, would you take that risk? Would you play?
It's just a lot of time. Just sit back thinking. You know what I mean, talking to my agent and talking to the team. They're behind me 100%, the doctors and their front office and my coaching staff and teammates. So it's all just sitting back thinking and feel how comfortable I feel in the situation.
Do you think is it going to be ultimately then up to you, or will they be able to pull the reins back and say,
It all depends. You know, I mean, we're still talking. We know. I mean, it just happened. We just figured this out. So it's not like it's nothing. It's something I just found out just like y'all did. So it ain't like I can just jump the gun. I got to be patient with it, and if the pain goes away, then I can try. I already played through it without knowing what was wrong with my hand, and I guess my adrenaline was pretty going. I was excited, but once the game was over, the pain came and it swelled up, and that's all I can deal with.
John said his hand isn't as swollen anymore. He showed me yesterday an exclusive interview we did on Monumental Network. The hand actually, it doesn't look as bad as it used to, Phil, but not good enough for him to play. What are your thoughts on how the Wizards need to move on without him?
Well, obviously that's a huge plug hole to be filled there. And I was really shocked, obviously, with both he and Beal having those injuries. I thought Beal's was more concerned, and the way he played after that was really kind of impressive to me. But the fact that he has that ability to affect the game, that's a lot. We're talking about a guy that can assist. We're talking about a guy that can break down the defense, score defensively. And keep in mind, we ran a chart not too long ago where he led the league in most minutes controlling the basketball. So here's a guy that really handles the ball quite a bit for that team. So, you know, everybody, I like what you said, that one star is falling, so the rest of them must rise. Did you make that up yourself?
I credit our producer, Chelsea. She came with that one.
That was
Great
a
line,
good one.
great
Good
line,
one.
yeah.
I like that one. But, yeah, I mean, obviously you think of Ramon Sessions, but hey, let's face it, our bigs have to step up and do a little bit more. Obviously, we want to see Nene come to life and maybe an appearance here at Verizon Center at the phone booth will get him back to playing the way we're used to seeing him play. But the bench is going to. I wouldn't be surprised also if we saw a Chris Humphries sighting tonight.
Okay. With a guy like John Wall out, how do you rally the squad in the locker room and get them ready for Game 3 when the series is tight, knotted up at 1-1?
First of all, I think Randy does an excellent job by making sure that guys are prepared for each and every game. And I think the one thing you're trying to do is to make sure that no one is focusing on who's not here, but who is here and who's going to play and how they're going to execute. You know, my years of playing in the playoffs, the one thing I know is every ounce of energy and every second of concentration has to go towards what you're going to do there. You can't even think about what's happened in the past. So that's what they're going to try and do, make sure they're focused, they're prepared, and they go out and execute. And I'm sure John's going to be back there backing them up as well.
And specifically for Ramon Sessions, you know, to step into that point guard role, how difficult is that for him to try to not be John Wall? Because he's got to be Ramon, and then maybe having Beal step over into John Wall's place sometimes as well.
No, like we said, no one can fill the void of John Wall. I mean, he does too many things. So what you want to do is accentuate your strengths. What Ramon does well, he's a great penetrator. He's probably not going to get you the number of assists, but he has to be aware of people that are open around him, but also put pressure on Jeff Teague, defensively and offensively. So that's what he's going to do. Beal, we saw him a little bit more of a passer, but he still has to maintain his focus on putting pressure on their defense, scoring. And like I said, our bigs have to score if they go small. You know, everybody has a job to do, and I think it just calls on them to concentrate that much more, knowing that John's out.
Well, circling back to Beal, he said he tried to do too much in Game 2 there, and he probably said it best in saying that he needs to be Bradley Beal and no one should try to be John Wall. Do you think the team needs to take a step back and recognize their roles and just fill the void that was left by John Wall without trying to be John Wall?
Well, again, I think that's what Randy, I'm sure, and the coaching staff has been talking about, is that, look, we're not going to have somebody that's going to step in and do what John does, but collectively, and the system that we have, the ball movement is one that should work with anybody being in there, and that's what they're going to try and do. They got to cut down on the turnovers. The turnovers in Game 2 really played a big part, and Atlanta's a team that can confuse you and force you into those turnovers, and of course now you're talking about transition points off those turnovers.
All right, Phil Chenier, thank you so much for stopping by, providing some analysis before Game 3. Now, earlier today, head coach Randy Whitman talked a little bit about John Wall's situation.
John's status?
He won't play tonight.
Did he get any closer today?
He just won't play tonight. That's all we're going to say.
What was the, I guess we asked you some of this yesterday, but what do you think is going to be the primary key for you guys defensively against them without
transition, number one. We can do a better job in transition. I thought they hurt us in both games, 1 and 2. They've hurt us in transition. So we got to do a better job. You know, when they get their lineups out there that are smaller, we got to do a good job in communication of matching up in transition. We've had a little bit of trouble with that, so that's got to be important factor for us tonight.
Head coach Randy Whitman on the John Wall situation. Make sure you keep tweeting using hashtag AmexWizards. tell us what you think the keys to a win tonight are going to be, and we'll get to some tweets at the end of the show. John Wall out. That's probably going to provide some insight as to what your answers will be. Someone's going to need to step up and be in that distributor role, but we'll get to those tweets in just a little bit. Jamoke will give his analysis. But for more of an idea of how the Wizards are going to get a win here in Game 3, we got to look back at that W they got in Game 1. Now, it was overshadowed by injuries to John Wall and Bradley Beal, but the Wizards carried that momentum from the sweep of Toronto right into Game 1 in Phillips Arena. And the Hawks were coming off of a game, coming off of the road in Brooklyn less than 36 hours before they faced the Wizards. They were playing in Brooklyn, and the Wizards had a week of rest, so that clearly swayed in the Wizards' favor. Now, Otto Porter was impressive again from the floor, grabbing his first career playoff double-double. Jamoke, aside from the win, what other positive takeaways did you see in Game 1?
I think when you talked about the rest, the fact that the Wizards, they had to weather an onslaught from the Hawks, because the Hawks, they were already in a rhythm from having played at Brooklyn when they came home. And I think that first half, it was tough for the Washington Wizards to kind of get back in the rhythm, but they found a way to do it despite the fact that the Hawks were really playing aggressive. They were cutting to the basket. They were flying around. They just did a really good job of coming out and showing that they were the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference. But like the tortoise and the hare, the Wizards being the tortoise, I mean, they came out, and I think the Hawks, they attempted 38 threes. That's as many field goals as the Wizards attempted. You saw John Wall go down. You saw Beal go down. Both of those guys came back, and that was key. The defense clamped down as well. They held Atlanta to their lowest shooting percentage all season in that second half of Game 1. That was 25%. Beal kept the game going with his jumper. Otto, John Wall played well. And, of course, we can't forget our big guy, after we show Otto here, is Paul Pierce. They all made big shots in that fourth quarter that were key for the Wizards to get the win. I think Marcin Gortat, he played well in that first game. But, again, as we'll get to a little bit later, he was probably the only big guy who played well, but it was the perimeter guys that really kept them in the game to get that victory in Game 1.
Definitely. Now, Game 2 had a bit of a different look and definitely a different outcome. About 45 minutes before tip-off, John Wall came out and tried to dribble, tried to take some shots. He left the court promptly after. Didn't play, obviously, as we know. So Ramon Sessions got the start in the game, and the Wizards played their first game with him as a starting point guard. He had an impressive stat line, 21 points, and the Hawks just outlasted the Wizards and shot better. Now, you mentioned that the defense really clamped down in Game 1. Mm-hmm. The Hawks scored 37 points in the first quarter. They then were held to 35 points in the second quarter. Now, that wasn't the case in Game 2, although the Wizards did close out a double-digit lead, and Bradley Beal had his 8th career 20-point playoff game, which puts him tied for 4th most of all-time players under the age of 21, so there's a bright spot. But beyond that, what were your takeaways?
I think the biggest takeaway to start with is Ramon Sessions. The fact that he didn't know if he was going to be playing until an hour before the game, and then you're asked to start in front of John Wall, our MVP and Wall-Star. I think he really did a good job. But losing John Wall, when you know he had 13 of the 18 assists in Game 1, and then you're asking the other guys to come in Game 2, it ended up being more of a team effort. And that was the key. It really was about the team, because what happens is, if Ramon Sessions, he's more of a scoring kind of point guard. So the ball ended up being in Bradley Beal's hands a little bit more. You talk about the assists. Bradley Beal actually led the team with 7 assists. And then you had 5 assists for Otto Porter, 4 assists for Ramon Sessions. So it was definitely, they all had to come together. There's Paul Pierce. He actually has been not so much a quiet leader. I know in that Toronto series he was getting a lot of boos. He got some boos here, but really he's just made some solid points. Gortat, he did okay offensively, but defensively, he's got to stay out of foul trouble. Ramon Sessions provided 21 points, was key for him. It was his first start since 2012. Bradley Beal, as you mentioned, yes, he's got to find a way to be Bradley Beal, but he's also got to find a way to be the leader for Wall, because now that Wall's out, it's really going to be up to Bradley Beal to kind of get these guys going. Otto Porter, who had a great game in Game 1, led the team in plus-minus again, did well in Game 2, hit some big shots. Drew Gooden hit some big shots, but Paul Pierce, I bet you, Game 3, he's going to be the man that may be the difference in the end of the game. When it's close, you're going to need Paul Pierce to make some big shots again. So this will be a third game that Paul Pierce is really going to have to step up big.
All right, well, we caught up with some of the Wizards earlier today, and they know that they have to go out and try and get the W tonight without the Wall-Star.
going to take some time, but it's one of those things that, coming in, getting your work in and just being ready to go, if it's first or second unit.
We didn't bring him in here for any reason. I mean, we knew what he was capable of doing, and that was terrific for us. I think that gave us a spark.
One man goes down, somebody else is going to have to step up. And it's a team collectively, stepping up and go from there.
Nobody picked us in the first round. Nobody is picking us in this round. Nobody expect these guys to go in there and do the job. But we in this locker room, we expect it.
I'm very confident. I've been around for a while, and I feel like, my game speaks for itself. I'm just go out there and be aggressive, play my game. That's what they want me to do. And even if it's the playoff, the regular season, just continue to do what I do.
All right, so the Wizards are looking ahead to Game 3. They know they won't have John Wall tonight, but Ramon Sessions will carry the load for Wall. Running the point, keep tweeting using #AmexWizards. Tell us what the keys to a victory are here at Game 3 at home, and #WizHawks. We'll get to some tweets in just a little bit. Now let's talk about tonight's offensive game plan for the Wizards. A core of 4 guys fueled things for the Wizards in Game 2. That was Beal, Pierce, Otto, and Sessions, who you just heard from. But the Wizards need to have that next man up mentality in order to have a good offensive performance to match that of Atlanta's. Who do you think could be that guy tonight?
I think that guy tonight could be Beal, but I'm going to go with Nene. I think he needs to be the real key for the Washington Wizards. But it's also, look, we're going to need the team to make the extra pass, right? Yes, you can get good shots, but you want to make that extra pass to get a better shot. They're going to cut down on turnovers. That's going to be another key for them. Keep up that perimeter. They're shooting very well from 3, 44%. You want to keep that going as well. But again, if I can go back to what you mentioned in the beginning, they're going to need the big men to step up, and I think that's going to start with Nene. Nene played 44 minutes, and in those 44 minutes, he only made 2 points. That's 2 games. That's not good. But Ramon Sessions, if he can get the big men going early, that's going to be a key for them. I think Marcin Gortat, he's played well, but what you don't want to have is him fouling out again. Bradley Beal, if he can step up offensively, but as you mentioned, he's going to have to find a way to play in his game and not necessarily think he could be John Wall. Otto Porter, just keep being Otto. If you can keep your continued success, I think that Otto Porter has shown these playoffs. He's a different ball player. He's really stepped up. You want that to stay as is. But Nene, as I talked about, he didn't shoot well. He attempted 9 field goals in 44 minutes. In 10 minutes, Kevin Seraphin had 4 field goal attempts. So if Nene, as a big man, they're going to need him to play at another level. And I know that they played a little bit of a different offense without Nene on the floor. A good amount of that game, they went small ball with Gortat being the big guy with 4 perimeter guys. So Nene maybe didn't see the floor the way he wanted to for a flow for him to get into it. So I think that's going to be very important for Ramon Sessions, Bradley Beal, Otto, Pierce, whoever has the ball in their hand, to get it to Nene early so he can kind of build up a rhythm. I think that'll be key for them.
Specifically, what will they do to get Nene more looks?
I think he's going to have to get down in the post. He likes that sweet spot on the right blocks. If they can get him the ball there, let him face his opponent and drive to the hoop, I think that's going to be a key for them. But their efficiency went from 116 when Wall's on the court to 96 when he's not on the court. So it's not really a good stat to show, but I think if the Wizards could find a way to make up for that in this game, because this could swing very much in the Hawks' favor, because right now the Wizards have that home court advantage. But unfortunately, if they end up in a situation where they lose this game, the pressure is really going to be on them in Game 4. So they're going to come out tonight, and they're going to need Nene to step up. And, we can't have Gortat fouling out either, because I think what you have is they're bigger, so they can hopefully impose their will on Horford and Millsap and make those guys have to work on the defensive end so they don't have as much of a chance, as much energy as they had on their offensive end, because they're going to be worn down trying to defend those guys down low.
Nene definitely could be that guy who can step up tonight. He can definitely stand to get some better looks tonight and find himself in the box score. Yeah. Let's talk about a guy who has stepped up already, the maturation of Otto Porter.
Otto Porter has been great. And I think that, towards the end of the season, there were a lot of DMPs. He wasn't really getting time. I can't express enough to you how excited I am just as watching his maturation to see him play as well as he did. The fact in the first round of playoffs, he had the highest plus minus. He was one of the most efficient players when he was on the court, which means the team was one of the most efficient. In Game 1 and 2, I think that Otto played well as well and made some big shots. But defensively, what they're going to have to do is, look, Otto is no longer a secret. right? They know what they're going to get out of Otto Porter. So you're going to need to be able to make, as I mentioned before, swing that ball around to get that extra pass, because Otto, while they know that he's going to get the ball, he may have to give it back to Beal or to Ramon Sessions to score, because now he's a target. He's a target now.
He's put a target on his back, that's for sure. But that's a good thing for the Wizards to have that presence in Otto Porter. He's kind of emulating Paul Pierce's maturity and his aura, too.
And he's learned a lot from him. You know, you see him on the bench, the way that Paul Pierce is talking to Otto. I think that he's learned a lot. You know, when we talk about Paul Pierce and the big shots that he's made, but we also have to recognize that what's happening with him off the court, the way he's teaching these players how to play the game, the way he's challenged Wall and Beal. Hey, if you want to be at my level, you got to step up your game. I think you're okay. You're playing well, but there's another level you need to reach. And Otto has said, you know what? I'm going to fall in that category of Wall and Beal. And I think the three of them have helped carry this team. Young core, young core.
Young core, hashtag young core, that's right. So someone's going to need to step up offensively, but then on the other side of the coin, in this Wizards defense, they're facing an Atlanta offense that isn't quite as strong as the one we saw in the regular season. They've experienced a dip in shooting percentage from 46.6% to 43.1% in the postseason, but the Wizards can't let them improve upon their shooting percentage. They can't let the backcourt get going. They need to limit Jeff Teague and Kyle Korver, and they honestly just need to suppress Atlanta's shooting, which is pretty obvious, but limit their points in the paint and their ball movement. How are they going to do that and keep the ball from moving around the perimeter?
I think it's really tough for them to suppress their offense, because as we talked about the Washington Wizards, well, the Hawks really know how to share the ball too, so that's going to be really tough. They're going to have to find a way to defend the pick and pop and the pick and roll, because Al Horford and Millsap are getting some open jumpers, because on those switches they aren't able to switch fast enough, the bigs, Nene and Gortat. So they're going to have to find a way to do that. Keep pressure on the perimeter. Yes, they've done a good job. The Atlanta Hawks are shooting 41% from three. I think that the fact that the Wizards are shooting 44, yes, okay, fine. That means the Wizards are shooting better from three. But we know that somewhere deep down the Hawks are going to have a good game from three, where they're going to be hitting. Kyle Korver is going to be hitting. So they're going to have to keep them off of their sweet spots, and they're going to have to get physical. That's going to be the other key. If they can get physical and make those guys feel the pressure when they come in the paint, that's going to be the key. Right there, hack them. Don't let them get those easy baskets, those quick layups. Don't let them even score. Make them go to the line and earn it there. I think that's going to be important for the Washington Wizards. They do a good job of staying underneath on the pick and rolls, but what is happening sometimes is when they go over top of that pick and roll, you're leaving just enough space for those guys to either penetrate or hit the deep three, as Kyle Korver did right there. And you don't want him to get hot. The other thing, if you can get them off of their sweet spots, that's going to be key. But I think when you talk about the physicality of the Washington Wizards and what they can do on defense, you got to find a way to be physical but not end up in foul trouble. The fact that Gortat fouled out at a crucial point in that game is something you can't have in Game 3. You're going to need them on the court. So maybe that's when you allow, as Phil Chenier said, let Humphreys come in, have Kevin Seraphin come in, make some of those hard fouls, let those guys know they can't just come in the paint. If you can do that with those guys, then maybe that allows for Marcin Gortat and Nene to be on the court longer.
Well, beyond the second round series we got Game 3 tonight. There's another connection between the Wizards and the Hawks. Head coach Randy Whitman actually played for the Hawks. Jamoke, how does that impact a series like this?
I think it does impact. It impacted a lot. I remember, we can go back to the Indiana series, how many fans were just so excited to have Randy Whitman back in the arena in Indiana, where he was born. Well, now we have a different connection. He was drafted by the Bullets, but he was traded to the Atlanta Hawks before he ever played a game in Washington. So I decided, hey, let's go down there and find out what Randy Whitman, because all we know him as a coach. Let's find out what he's like as a player.
He was my best friend on that team. We were very close, very close. Just a wonderful person, and he's turned out to be a wonderful coach.
What characteristics did he have as a player that maybe would translate to why he's having success?
Well, again, Randy understood the game. He understood X's and O's, and a tough player, you know, a guy who stayed within his game, just a wonderful mid-range shooter. I enjoyed playing with him.
Whit was a great teammate, great player, unbelievable shooter, and it was my job to get him open. And believe me, we would get him open, and every time we shot the ball, it was like we knew it was going in. So this is a tremendous person. Glad to see what he's doing now. He's doing a tremendous job with the Wizards. and I'm truly proud of him.
84-88 was pretty prolific. One of the seasons you won 57 games. How do you think that team would do today? Like Randy as a shooting guard.
Oh man, it wouldn't even be a comparison, man. We'll take care of these guys real easy.
I tell you what, he get all he can eat today. You know, with the jump shooting game that it is today, oh, he'll fit in real well.
Can you share a funny memory, story, something about him?
You know, he was a comedian. He was between he and I, we always kept things going, and he was a prankster. You know, that's was one of his main things about him, that he always was pulling pranks. You know, but it was a lot of fun. We had a very fun team.
How funny is that, seeing head coach Randy Whitman in a uniform and those short shorts?
Those short shorts.
Yeah.
The short shorts. It was fun to talk to the Hall of Famer Dominique Wilkins. He was really good about it, and I'm just amazed when you go and you see a different side of a player off camera. Just hearing some of the stories about Randy Whitman, him being a prankster.
Good stories
there
that
are
you're
good
not
stories.
sharing with us.
Yes, there's one that I would like to share. So there was a time where there's a teammate that I'm not going to say his name, but they were throwing candy at him, and he thought it was Randy Whitman, and it wasn't Randy Whitman. So the fact that the two of them got a little but fun pushing and shoving, just like, wait, that wasn't me. It was just good to see that Randy, as much as we know him as a coach, that he kind of is just like the players, the way they play pranks and have a good time with each other. Just to see a different side. Shoot, finding a picture of Randy smiling isn't always easy. So to go online and find him smiling, and even the thought of him being a prankster, just unto itself was pretty funny to hear Dominique say. Yeah, but it was good. It was good conversation.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him pull some pranks here with the Wizards, but I don't think we're going to see that happen.
I remember at one point he said he would dunk. I don't remember what it was with the Indiana series, that he said if something happened that he would dunk the basketball. And I wish I could remember what it was. I should have looked it up.
Maybe they should suit him up and he can help the Wiz get a win tonight. So that's pretty cool hearing about Randy Whitman. Yeah, but that can't be a key to tonight's win because he's not on the roster. So we're going to get to some tweets and find out what everyone thinks a key to the win, the keys to a win tonight will be. So let's get to some tweets. First off, May NBA says they need to stay focused. Watch out for turnovers, defense, and no limits. Hashtag Amex Wizards and DC Rising. We need to see more DC Rising. It's the playoffs.
I'm just going to say all the letters. BRANCVET.
That's cheating. Sound it out.
Well, I don't know what that is. BRANCVET. Brankvet. He said denying Korver open looks and stopping Teague on the break.
All right. And our girl, Brenna says,
shout out
defense.
to Brenna.
We always do good when we let our defense turn into offense. I think she's been talking to you a little bit too much, Jamoke.
I know. She's been watching
She's repeating
the show
your
and
mantra.
Picking up some knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so what's your key to a victory tonight?
So my key to a victory is, of course, sharing the ball. John Wall, he creates 30.8 points off of his assists. We're not going to have him in the game tonight. So I think we're really going to need our best team effort tonight, and that's going to begin with Nene. I think if we can get him going, I think that, because I know that, listening to Randy and some of the players, they said, look, we're just going to play our same game. We're not going to change up because Wall's not in there. But to an extent, you've got to change something. Something has to be done differently. Some player has to step up. And I think that change will be Nene. He wasn't in the game for some of the series when they went small ball. Maybe you have to not go small ball as much and play Gortat and Nene together, and maybe just have that lineup of either, anywhere between the four, between Sessions, Beal, Otto, and Pierce in all, in the front court with the back court. Maybe that's what you're going to have to do. But I think if Nene has a good game, I think we'll get a win today.
All right, so you're going with the offensive side of things. Nene stepping up, next man up. Someone's got to get themselves in the box score. Maybe it'll be Nene. I'm going to go with the defense. They got to limit that Atlanta backcourt, Korver and Teague. So that's what I'm going with. Keep them from moving the ball around the perimeter and launching those outside shots.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, for myself, for a playoff home victory, I'm sticking with the bow tie.
Okay.
Now, I switched the bow tie.
I like that one.
I switched it because they lost the game. So I said I'm going to stay with the hashtag playoff bow tie, but I changed it. Shout out to my wife who picked out the nice bow tie. Thank
Good
you
job,
very
Sheila.
much for that. I appreciate
Well
it. Okay, so that'll do it for American Express Home Court Advantage. For Haley Mylon, I'm Jamoke Davis. We want to thank the legend, Phil Chenier, for joining us on the show. Hope we've got you prepared for Game 3 between the Atlanta Hawks and the Washington Wizards. Series tied 1-1. Hopefully the Wizards go up 2-1. That'll do it for now. Ciao for now, as I like to say. We'll see you on Monday right here in our Monumental Network studios for the next game, 6:15, Game 4 here in Verizon Center.
Let's go.